But now, I'm going to move on because I went off to India just for a holiday for a few weeks. I'd met a guy in Signet, a backpacker. His name was Martin, and he'd been in India and met up with an Arab man in the desert there, and this guy Martin was trying to set up some permaculture there in the desert. Not really a wise way to go because you're trying to change their ways, which you're not used to. But anyway, I said I'd visit him on the way to the UK, so I stopped off in Rajasthan for a few weeks. And the first job I had to do was go to the shop and get some clothing. This is me and this is Martin. This is before the fuzz came on here. So I actually bought this turban. I still can't tie a turban to this day. And that's yours truly on the camel. Maharaja, if you like. I wasn't allowed to wear a white turban because that was only for the Islam people there in that area. So I could wear a coloured one, that was the Hindu one. And you see what the desert is like. This is Ibrahim Khan. He kept the camels and goats and so on. And he took us on a safari of 25 kilometres, walking all the way. He was walking, I was riding. And marvellous, very simple man. And he'd walk across the desert to our little hut, 3 kilometres every morning, just to bring our breakfast, which was porridge, made on a little tiny fire. He'd collect enough little tiny twigs and sticks to make a small fire to cook the porridge and the chai each morning for us. Lovely man, a lovely family. There we are. This is Martin and the children. Lovely children. You see the condition of the desert. Very, very dry, extremely hot. That's my other alter ego. And this camel was an ugly brute. And if I did one thing wrong, it would give me such a scolding. If you got on it the wrong way or pushed it the wrong way, whatever. This is settling down for the night, for the evening. Settle down, it's getting cold. Start getting the food ready. You can see the sun coming up in the morning, flat on the horizon. See it go down at night, flat on the horizon. Exactly the same with the moon, because that came up halfway. Yeah, the older people chew betel nut, which makes the teeth and the lips pink. It's got some kind of narcotic, I think. Oh, by the way, that's me when I'm going to be 85, I think. Nurse, get on the internet, go to surgery.com, scroll down and click on the "Are you totally lost" icon. My next trip after India, well, this was last year, in fact, middle of last year, I went off. No, sorry, November this past year, I went off to Nepal, which is in the north of India. Does anyone know where that is? I don't like Christmas. I've got a family situation and don't want to be around having to say Happy Christmas to everyone, and I thought I'd get away from it. So I went to Nepal. And these pictures are the icon of Nepal, if you like, way up in the Himalayas. Very, very high up. I decided to do a 3-day trek and took a guide up there with me, and he knew the way apparently. So this is the journey. I'll just go through them, and they're self-explanatory. Inside the aircraft, you see how primitive the aircraft is even. That's the size of the aircraft. You see the mountains here. And when we got out of this aircraft, the cold hit me and the lack of oxygen. I've never been 3,000 meters up before in my life, and that really hit me. The journey from here up to a place called Manang was about 10 kilometres, an extra 500 metres. And we walked that in 5 hours because I had to stop every 10 minutes and let my heart slow down. But it's very cold, very tiring, but beautiful, beautiful area. These pictures here are we were waiting to leave the place after 3 days, so it's a bit back to front. But we were waiting for the aircraft to arrive. And I'll come back to this in a moment. So this is on the walk up to a place called Manang. Two of us walking, trekking up this very, very lonely path, no one else about. Suddenly here we hear the clink, 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 clink of 2 ponies coming up behind us fairly fast. Man on each, and as they pass, they pull out a cell phone. They have better cell phone coverage in the Himalayas, 5,000 metres up, than we do have here in Tasmania. Can you believe it? And much cheaper. Much, much cheaper. And you see all these bricks, all these blocks of stone, they are all carried up there, or were carried up over the centuries by man, labour or pony.
Why did they go there to look?
Sorry?
Why would they go up there to look?
You wonder, don't you? And you get 7 feet of snow up there each year in the winter. It's just their way of life. Beautiful, simple people. But they are smart, so you can't pull the wool over their eyes. They know what's going on in the world.
What do they work at?
Animals, yaks, which provide meat and the hair, that sort of thing. Tourism, of course, today is quite important. But their other food has to be carried up, and all the other needs have to be carried right up the top there. These are hotels here built for tourists. And inside that hotel at night, I slept with tracksuit bottom and top and socks inside a thick sleeping bag, and I was still cold. And the next morning you get up inside the hotel, go to the bathroom, there's a bucket of water you're supposed to wash with yourself with. The bucket was one solid block of ice inside the hotel. There we are, that's what I was sleeping in. And I was.
Well, you would have been miserable if you'd stayed home too. So.
And the hat, which is a Nepalese hat, was woolen hat. I was wearing that at night too to keep my head warm. It was freezing. It looks cold, doesn't it? That was early morning. And this is whilst we're waiting for the aircraft to arrive to go back down the valley. That's my guide. That's the airport. That's the entrance to the airport. Early morning, the fires are being stoked up to cook their food. How are we doing for time, by the way?
Your clock's on the screen, mate.
Yeah. Is it? Okay, got 10 minutes, that's fine. I think it'll work out just right. Now we're waiting for the aircraft to arrive, and you can see it's just coming in there. That's the size of it. And we flew up between these great big mountains. It's awesome. There we are. Very, very rough airstrip. That's my alter ego. Really proves that I was there. And these real boots that I was actually wearing there, so they've been somewhere as well. Okay, I'll go out of there, and I'll go now back to here. There's a little bit more I'd like to show you. Another place I was in, I'll go through these fairly quickly, otherwise we'll be caught for time. I went to a place called Lumbini, which is supposed to be the birthplace of Buddha. And I got involved with a hotel there where they were trying to set up some composting. All the waste food from the hotel was being put into a heap and become absolutely stinky, anaerobic, with flies and birds around it. So I suggested to them we made a proper composting system, and that's what we did over about 2 or 3 days. So I'll go through fairly quickly, and you can ask questions if you like as we go. So that's the garden they're growing all the organic food in, and there we are. And this was the heap of smelly stuff here. So that's what we wanted to eliminate.
Whereabouts actually is this in India?
Lumbini is very close to the border with India. It's on the south of Nepal. Yeah, they're still up in the hills. Now we're going to use this hay here in the process where I was building up. And these guys had built this incinerator out of bricks. I said, well, we can build the composting heap in the same way. So there they are getting on with it, and they make using mud to bind the bricks together as a mortar. That's the, there we are, that's how they're doing it. They're really keen, these guys. They understood what was needed. And then we use all this stuff as well to go into it. And that's how they made the mud mortar. And you see it's growing up there. And then I showed them how to load it in there. Oh, by the way, that old heap we just covered with soil. We tried digging it out, put it into the compost heap, but it stank so much it's making people feel sick. So just cover it with soil, it will be okay in about 6 months. There we are. And I showed them how to layer these things in straw, compost, to allow the air to get in to break down. So I hope it's going to be fairly successful. I might go back there sometime and see how they go. We used all this around there to stop getting muddy. All this is local stuff off the trees. There we are. I can't remember the names now, but they're really lovely people. And then we covered it to stop the birds getting in there and hooking the whole thing about. So that was a project which I found, I hope, was quite successful.